I think we are live, and if we are, that's 2 weeks in a row where we didn't have massive technical issues. It's a miracle. Let me know if you guys are able to hear me. I did have my microphone on mute, but I think I have since fixed it. Okay. So just getting started for transparency, about half of the markers I have were sent to me by Winsor & Newton to try out, and I liked them so much I went and bought a crap ton more of them. So some of these were provided by Winsor & Newton, some of them were purchased by myself. This is not, however, a sponsored video. Today I'm working on Yupo paper. That is this stuff right here. Trying to make sure it's on camera. This is the 144 pound. It is a very heavyweight paper. Perfect for these markers. Now remember, with these markers, you do not want to work on regular marker paper because they're not going to do the same blending that you're going to see me able to do or accomplish today. So just something to keep in mind there. Either use the Yupo paper is really good, or Winsor & Newton makes their own paper. It is this stuff here. The problem with this stuff is that it's super, super flimsy, and so it's not my favorite. It's actually a nice paper to work on. I just wish it was thicker. If it was thicker, I would probably go with that over Yupo, but not an option, so I am using the Yupo for these. So, let's see. I'm not sure if we have any of our mods in. Yes, we do. Joseph's here. If you guys want to check out our mods channels, I have that listed in the video description. They are both artists. I'm not sure if Valerie's here. I know that Joseph is, but both of them are amazing artists, so you can check that out. And let's see, how far down is this going to come? I need to make sure that I've got the camera in the right position. It looks like I'm a little bit low here. Yeah, I'm going to move that just a bit. Come on, work with me here. Hold on one second. I'm about to make a really annoying adjustment, but it looks like my camera is sliding down. And I want to make sure you guys can see the part we're working on today. Just a little. Oh yeah, this is loose. Okay, I should have fixed this before we started. So 1 second here. I just need to twist this little guy around so that he stops trying to slide down. I feel so unprepared for some reason today, more so than normal. I think it's because I don't have anything started. Anytime I start from scratch, you always have that bit of anxiety of, I don't know where to start. And especially here, being that this is a new medium for me. Okay, I think that will be a bit better so you guys can see what I'm actually working on. Sorry for the camera headache there. At least the microphone wasn't attached to it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the background. This is a reference photo. It's actually 3 reference photos that I took from graphic stock that I'm combining 2 different clownfish and an anemone, because the anemone with these clownfish was a really boring orange and not all that cute. And the anemone, there's another one that is super bright and fluorescent, and we're going to try that. So I need to decide what markers I want. Now, one tip I have for you with using these pigment markers, when you get the paper, even though, like I said, the pigment marker paper by Winsor & Newton is not my absolute favorite because it's so thin, I do like it for testing my color because the Yupo paper is extremely expensive. I don't want to waste that to test colors and see how things are going to blend. That's where I really like the Winsor & Newton pad, because you get so much and it's so much cheaper. Okay. So I need to figure out what color I need. Let's pull out my handy little sheet like I was talking about. And what I'm going to do first is just test. Is that the color I want? It would work. I may use that color, but with something else. What I need is more of an ultramarine kind of purpley blue color. My reference photo up where I can see it. Ow! Which one was that? Let's try this one. Same thing. I'm just going to test it on my paper. That is the color I need right there. That's a much brighter color, because the colors on the edges, they're close to what the color is going to look like, but you can get a better idea if you test it on the paper. So I know I'm going to need that, and I'm going to be mixing it with some black. So we'll pull out that marker. I will need the colorless blender and probably some purple. That should work. Okay. Howling something or another wants to know if I can draw a block of cheese. I can, but I won't. Is that the answer you were looking for? I can draw anything. That just doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to be interested in that. Okay, I've got to move my paper. I've got glassine taped to this so that I don't smudge my work or rest my hand on the paper. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So this area is actually going to be dark. Wrong color. Let's switch back to the black. I'm going to blend that in with my blue color. Chloe King wants to know how I find motivation to do art pieces back to back. Bills. I keep getting bills in the mail and they expect me to pay them. And in order to do that, being that that's my job, I have to actually go to work and get work done. That's a huge motivation for me. Another thing that I do is I switch mediums. For me, if I were to do colored pencil every single week or acrylic painting every single week, I'd start to get burnt out and frustrated. So by switching mediums, that really, really helps me. Ooh, that is way too pale. Let's go with a darker version of that color. Oh gosh, Kaneho is on his I'm going to be nice to everybody kicks. That's always weirder than when he's being mean to everybody. Now with these markers, you can actually use your finger to blend them out. I've got some brushes too that I'll use. Whoops, auto power, nope, I need to plug in my camera. Okay, 1 second, as it turns out, that is unplugged. And it's down here somewhere. I really am as unprepared as I thought I was. Where is the cord? Okay, that's a little weird because that one is always out in the open. Oh, it is up here. There we go. Just wasn't plugged in all the way. Trying that again. Okay, so with these, before they dry, you can actually use your finger and smudge them out to get this really nice, soft transition from one color to the next. This is what I love so much about these. Now, these are not permanent, so while they are light fast, so you can create archival work with them, they're not permanent. So I can reactivate or re-wet any area of this. So like this area that's harsh, I don't have to worry about that. That's going to blend seamlessly once I add my other colors next to it. Okay, yeah, I actually got a lot of these markers. They were on clearance at Hobby Lobby. I bought every single one of them that wasn't completely damaged. Most of them were fairly damaged. Unfortunately, because they have these out in the open, and I've seen this before where people let their kids just trash anything they can get their hands on, and they'll just jam them into the shelves. And parents apparently think this is an appropriate behavior for their child. So I actually made a lady really mad once when I told her to make her kids stop. But she was ruining $5 markers. Anyway, they clearanced out a bunch of these. So I went and picked up every single color that I didn't already have that was not damaged. So I have a ton of colors I've not tried yet. I don't care if this looks exactly like my photo. I just want something blurry back here. I kind of want a more vibrant blue. I wonder if any of these will be more electric. And nope, too light. I've got about 75 colors now. Now, the nice thing with these, you can blend and mix colors. So it's not something where if you don't have a ton of them, you can't accomplish a lot. The first set that I got from them was the set, I'm missing one. where did I put the purple? There it is, was the set of 24. And I was able to complete a lot of different things with that. So I don't think that this is one that you have to run out and buy every single color available to get started. That set of 24 was great for me. And then I loved it so much, like I do with everything, I decided I needed every color they have. Actually, I don't have every color, but I have a lot of them. I'm just going to smudge that, and you can see it just kind of re-wets the area that was next to it that was dry, and it'll smudge right into it. And I'm just lightly pushing on this, going in little circles, and this will wash off with water. So I have my little water well next to me. When I want to clean off my hands, I can just dip it in water and dry it with a paper towel, and it'll be, my fingers will be completely clean. It's not going to stain them at all. Now that is a bit more rough than I want. I'm going to see if one of my brushes, I have makeup brushes that usually blend pretty well, if these will give me, oh yeah, that's much softer. Chloe wants to know if I have ever thought of collaborating with other YouTubers like Bailey J or Robin. I don't know how to say her last name, but I love her. She's hilarious. I personally think you and Robin would work well with each other. I need to contact Robin because she cracks me up. I just like watching her videos because she's so funny. Me and Lena Dania are talking, or Lena Dania, I'm not saying her name right, are planning on doing a collaboration soon. We're not sure what we're going to do yet. And yeah, I mean, there are quite a few other YouTubers that I want to collaborate with. But yes, Robin is one I need to talk to because she is just funny. I just want to talk to her because she's hilarious. I am using Yupo paper. Y-U-P-O. It's basically plastic paper. It's kind of weird, but it's non-absorbent. And that's the important thing with this. If you use regular marker paper, your markers are just going to soak into it and they're not going to do the blending that you're seeing me get here, even if you use the same markers. The paper you use really, really matters. So just softening that up. I just want a soft transition of colors back here. Actually, let me go a little bit darker. Okay, Conejo is really freaking me out right now. Are you guys seeing him? See, if you didn't know, he was actually saying the opposite thing to me on a video recently, or commenting. He's saying, he's actually complimenting me, which is just weird for him. And that's how you know the zombies are coming. Guys, make sure you have your windows locked tonight. It might be the end of the world. Clarence wants to know, when I am finished the painting is complete, will the surface be sealed or will it be behind glass? It will be behind glass. I don't know of anything that you can put over this that will not cause it to lift or reactivate. I'm not sure. I haven't tried anything yet. So, but yes, definitely behind glass. Either way, even if I sealed it with something, I would still put it behind glass. Someone is asking what channel Robin's is. If one of you guys can link that, because I don't remember how to say her last name. You could probably just look up Robin and painting and find it. Ooh, this color's nice. That's a nice darker color like what I'm looking for. A lot of what I'm doing with markers, for me, it's still such a new medium. This is just experimenting. I'm not going to freak out if something is not exactly right. I'm just getting used to these still. This is only the 4th time I've ever used them. And that counts my first absolute trial where I was basically just scribbling on paper. I mean, I'm very, very inexperienced with these. So I have to look at it as just, it's experimentation. I think I could use some black to darken this up. I need a better place to store these besides in my hand as I'm working. Susan Cooper says, e.l.f. makeup brushes work really well for blending. Yes, they do. And they're nice because they're generally fairly inexpensive. So when I layer here, this isn't quite the same as when you see me layer with colored pencils or any of that. This is actually mixing in with my previous layers. It's not just setting on top the way that you would see me do with colored pencil or with acrylic painting. This blends in with whatever previous color was there. So you're mixing a lot of colors. You're basically mixing it on the paper. Now I'm getting closer to what I want. Okay, I'm going to count that good enough for my background. Halloween something or another wants to point out faces. Please don't. Just, there's no face in the leaves. Okay, I've got to rinse off this brush. Now that I've used it to blend, it has marker on it. So when I come back onto another area, you can see how it smudges that color. I don't want that to end up in the wrong place. So I've got my water next to me. I'm just going to rinse that out and dry the brush so it's ready to go. Heidi wants to know how far I got with the light fast test and Inktense. Not at all. I mean, besides the one, I wanted to put some up in my window over the summer. I never got to it. I've just been too busy. So that's still on my to-do list. But the one that I have hanging in my living room, which gets very bright indirect sunlight, it's been there for a year. It's behind UV protected glass or UV whatever glass. And I put a UV protecting spray over it, and that one has not faded at all. That's my red panda. It looks just like my photos did. So that gives me high hopes. I'm still not at a place where I'm comfortable to sell them because I don't know what that's going to look like in 5 or 10 years, being that they aren't so light fast. But that was good news to me that they're not just instantly fading, because people were freaking out, like, you know, saying that they were fading when they were still in their art book and before they even, let's see what happens with this brush, before it wasn't even exposed to light, it was just fading in their art journals. And I definitely have not seen that be the case. So that's a good sign. Art by Criley wants to know how one goes about receiving complimentary supplies to review from companies. They contact me because of my YouTube channel, honestly. They're not just going to give out supplies if it doesn't do them any good. They want somebody who's basically going to promote them. I mean, obviously, if I like the product, I'm going to tell you guys about it. If I didn't like the product, I'm going to tell you guys that too. So, you know, it's kind of hit or miss for the companies. I think they hope that if they give it to us, that we're automatically going to praise them or, you know, be more biased towards them, which can happen. But no, they just contacted me. So it works. It's a mutually beneficial relationship, because I'm telling you guys about it and then you guys want to try it, and it works for my videos because that gives me something to make a video out of that you guys would actually be interested in watching. So it works all around for them and me to do, but it's not like they're just giving supplies away to artists in general. It's about, I mean, I'm basically promoting them pretty much for free if I like the product. So I just missed a question. Jackie wants to know if these markers work like watercolors when blending. Sort of, not really. I'm not a watercolor artist, so I can only offer so much insight as far as that goes. The pigment is much deeper. They will lift, though. They lift more than watercolor will lift, at least from what I've experienced with watercolor. Helene, something or another, wants to know if I can bring my little chicken in while recording. Not when doing this, because I considered it that there's alcohol in these markers and the fumes. I don't want him breathing that. So birds are just so sensitive to different scents and fumes. So I'm not, as entertaining as he is, I'm not willing to risk his life. So not for this one. I could for acrylic or graphite would be safe. JPC13 Art says, I have an oil painting I'm really not happy with. Want to start over, but I don't want to waste the canvas. Figured I can put gesso over it. What do I do? Do you have oil? Only if it's oil-based gesso. You can't put regular gesso over oil paint because that's most gessos, those are going to be water-based. If you put that over your oil paint, it is no longer archival. That eventually will chip and flake off. So do not gesso it unless you've got an oil-based gesso, which I don't know that they probably exist. I don't know. It would probably cost you more to do that than to just replace the canvas itself. Better yet, keep working on the canvas. There's a good chance you can fix whatever's going on there. Brush It Studio says, what's another alternative to so expensive? Ducati? I don't know what that is. I'm sorry, I can't answer that, because I don't know what the original you're talking about is. Jack wants me to do an airbrushed blurry background live stream. The problem is the airbrush is so noisy, so probably not. We'll see. Okay, I should probably stop setting those there. What do I need now? I think that's about it for the black for now. We can set that down. Arlene wants to know, with the paper being non-absorbent, how well do the markers adhere to the paper long term? Well, it'll be framed, so once it's framed, it's fine. Nothing's going to damage it. But I mean, if I spill water on this, it'll lift right off. So yeah, I mean, otherwise it sticks on its own as long as it's protected. Chloe says, whenever you enter a Blick store, don't you just want to live in there? I've never been in a Dick Blick store. I only can go online. They do not have those in my area, which makes me very sad. So you guys should all feel really bad for me. But I do love their online store, so it's not all bad. Victoria wants to know if I've ever used pan pastel pads to blend the markers. No, I've not tried that yet. Now this area is darker than what I'm going to want, so I will use the white. Oops, putting these in backwards and then I can see the color. I will end up using white to blend it out. I really wish these were square, because every time I set these in my paintbrushes, every time I set them down, they're rolling away. I need to find a better way to, where to keep them, and it just flew away. Come back, brush. Dingus says, if alcohol-based markers were light fast, would you want to try them? Well, technically, I think these are an alcohol marker, or there's a type of alcohol in them. But, I like how these blend, honestly. Now, part of that is the paper, for sure. I'm using white here to lighten this up. But I've played with markers before, and I never had an interest. I mean, I use my ink tints, my Derwent ink tints, and those aren't light fast, but I just love how they work. So it's worth it to me to keep using. But every time I've tried Copics, they weren't a medium that makes sense to me. I like how they look when other people use them. My brain is just like, nope, you're not going to be good at this. So I'm sure I could eventually get decent with them, but I just never had the interest to spend the time needed to make that happen. So no, I don't think I would be very interested in other markers, even if they were light fast. I didn't think I'd be interested in these. The only reason I tried them is because of Winsor and Newton, I forgot the name of them for a minute there, because Winsor Newton contacted me and asked me if I wanted to try. I'm like, free art supply, sure, I'll give them a try. Did not expect to like these at all. That was a huge, huge surprise to me. I've just never been one to work well with markers. Ashley says, do you suggest any kind of paper for acrylic paintings if we prefer paper to other surfaces? No, I don't use paper, so there's nothing that I can recommend just because it's not my preferred way to go. So I've never tried that many. I just don't like, paper's not my preference. Nicholas Edgar wants to know if I ever use Desmond for recording any video for my videos. No. And he has the same camera as I do. That Desmond, for those of you who don't know, is my DSLR, well, one of my DSLRs, my good one. And no, I do not use that because it's hard on the camera, honestly. If you record for any length of time, it heats up. So like a quick vlog, no problem. But for something like with these videos where I'm recording for hours and hours at a time, that is really hard on the camera, and that is a very expensive camera. So I am not going to risk its life for video when I've got a video dedicated to, or a camera dedicated for videos. Why do I start with a background? I don't know. Well, okay, I think part of that comes from, I started as an acrylic painter, and in order to really make acrylics blend smoothly, you want to start from the back and work your way forward. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to blend your background smoothly, just the way that acrylics blend. And I think that my mind just processes things that way. On this, with marker, I could have started for the other way around and moved forward. That would have been okay for this. But my brain says background first and work forward. I keep over blending this, so I'll have to add some of that in there. There we go. Now I'm getting a better transition there, those darker colors. No, and back to the cameras. Nicholas, you had asked about using the DSLRs. The DSLRs are what a lot of YouTubers use. And I thought about using my Nikon DSLR, but this one is made for it, so it's intended for handling that. So it just makes more sense for me to go with this. But if you were to do just a quick video, like you're doing the intros, I could use that for my intros and outros. The camera would only be on for an hour, so it's not as bad. But it's something that can be done. It just doesn't make sense to me if I've got this one that's made for it. Sarah Makes Art says, when I sketch in public and I'm not able to finish something because my subject moves or something, can that be an exception to the always finish rule, since, like I said, I couldn't finish? I don't know. Can you take a quick photo with your camera of whatever it is you're drawing? You probably got your cell phone with you, or take a photo of whatever it was. And that way you've got a copy and you can go home and finish sketching. So no, you still have to finish. Dennis wants to know if I think that, oops, scrolling too fast, that pastel paper would be good to use with the polychromos. Depends on the results you want to get. It's probably going to be a bit too rough, but the Canson Me Tense, that I believe is considered a pastel paper, and that I like for polychromos. So it would depend on how rough it is. Dingus wants to know, how will I know if my art is good enough to sell? When people are willing to pay for it. Honestly, that's probably the easiest way to tell. If no one's buying, then, and no matter what you do, if you market it right, somebody's going to be interested anyway. I told this story recently. There was a guy who had a website. He was essentially doing drawing stick figures. They were funny stick figures, but they were stick figures. And kind of an abstract mixed with stick figure. I don't know. It wasn't what anyone would consider good art, but he'd have these descriptions that were absolutely hilarious. They were so funny, and it made me want to buy his art. His art wasn't necessarily what would traditionally be considered good, but it was so funny and so entertaining. I mean, this guy knew how to market it, and that's really the way to go. Okay, so we're going to use this. I'm going to need some purple. And probably blue again. I've got a suggestion to stop markers from rolling, to put a rubber band around them. That's 75 rubber bands, and they would no longer fit in the drawer. Good idea, though. I'm also going to need white. I should pay attention to what I'm doing. Okay. So this area up here, now this, see how this marker right here, that is damaged because I was not paying attention to what I was doing. I wonder if that'll pull off. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and I jammed the lid on and damaged the marker. So if you, like me, are not used to working in markers, that is something that you want to be careful of. But I only made the mistake once, so yay, I learned from it. Just kind of getting the tips of some of these anemones over here. Going right up against where the clownfish is going to go. And any tips on college art portfolios? I need 5 or 6 color or still life drawings. I'm currently in grade 12 and need it done by the second week in February. My tip is get to work. I would do more than the required amount. That way you have a little bit more to choose from. But having a bit of consistency, having a theme, a lot of the colleges like that, but then some people want to see more variation. So I can't say for certain what they're going to be looking for. I don't want to give you bad advice, but I would say do more than what's required and start working. I hope you're drawing right now. You don't have much time. But the reason that I say do more, not that you're going to include more, but that if you're looking at your work and you're like, wow, this one isn't as good as that one, you're not rushing to try to hurry up and make something else. It gives you more options to provide your absolute best. Karen Smith says, I use rubberized drawer liners available in hardware store. Yes, I know what you're talking about. And those I love. I use them all over the place. They just aren't mixed into this setup right now. Those are so amazing. I use them for a lot of things. They're also really good if you're having a hard time getting tubes of paint open. They're good. I always used to keep them in with my paint, because sometimes those jars or bottles do not want to open, and those things will work well. Barbara Lovelace says, how do you handle the stalkers, creepers we artists tend to attract? I ignore them mostly. I have not had it too bad. My biggest issue have been people that think higher of me than they should. They expect too much from me, where they think that we're instantly like best friends and I'm going to be able to drop everything that I'm doing all the time and answer their questions. And they get really angry when they realize that that's not the reality of my life. Like, I can't just drop what I'm doing and answer every art question you have. And I've had people get really, really angry and super disappointed because they seem to have this idea of, I don't know what idea they had in their head, but that seems to be something that I've had happen more, where when someone's finally disillusioned and realizes that I'm a real person and I've got stuff to do too, I've had people get really mad at me. But I haven't had too many stalkers in a while, so yay. I've had some really creepy messages from people who hated me. That was interesting. But I haven't even had those in a while. It's been good lately. Piso Paint says, I would really like to know how you get your reference photos. I get problems with that every time. I searched some. Sorry for my not so good English. This one came from Graphic Stock. It's a paid service. I also get some from Pixabay. I get some from wildlifereferencephotos.com. I get them from a few different locations. I've got some of the Jason Morgan's wildlife reference photos that I purchased the CDs that way. And he actually, because of being on his Patreon, he provides some through that as well. And I've also been taking my own photos more. Going to the zoo, going outside like where I normally wouldn't, just because I saw random ladybugs and thought there might be more. So I took my camera and went down to the trail to see if I could find more. That is actually how I got last week's reference photo, or the week before. You can get reference photos all over the place. You just have to look for them. But yeah, Pixabay is a great one. Morgue File. There are groups on Facebook that provide reference photos. I like Graphic Stock. They're usually my go-to, just because you pay once for the year. It's like $100. You pay that one time, and you can use any of their photos, as many as you want, and you know that they're royalty-free. One of the things that happens sometimes on websites like Graphic Stock is that they will... I'm going to actually move on. That looks terrible, but I'm going to come back to it. They will occasionally have users that upload photos that they do not have the rights to upload it. They stole the photo. So if you paint or draw one of those, you could end up in it having issues. So you have to do a little research to make sure it's not been stolen from somebody else. But if you go to a site like Pixabay, but there are a lot of good ones. If you find a user who regularly uploads their own photos, you'll get to where you can have certain people who upload that you trust, that you know they're really their photos. This color is going to be perfect for a lot of this. Yay. Nicholas wants to know what type of brushes I'm using for blending. They are makeup brushes by e.l.f. They're very, very soft brushes. I am just going to loosely block this in because this whole area is mostly pink. I'm leaving the really bright spots open, although it may be easier just to lift that with the Q-tip and water later on. One of the things that I'm enjoying so much about playing with markers is that it's so fast. You can get so much coverage so quickly. Devin wants to know if I'm going to do a vlog at the zoo. I don't know. It's weird recording yourself in public. Like, even when I go to the flamingos where I'm recording myself talking to them like an idiot, people are looking at me like, what is wrong with her? So it's a little bit embarrassing to record in public. I mean, I'm sure I'll get over it quickly enough, but yeah. JPC13 Art says he's disappointed I didn't get the sparkly droopy tree. I know. The problem is it really wouldn't have fit. For those of you who don't know what he's talking about, today's video I talked about that. My husband texted me a photo of a tree at the grocery store, but then didn't bring it home. He was like, no, it's too big, it won't fit. Then why did you send me a text of it? It's at the end of the video from today. We'll just soften this out a bit. You can see how it just blends right into the previous areas. It reactivates what was there, so you don't end up with harsh lines where you don't want them, which is one of the best things about these markers. Actually, where was that pink? I think that pink would work really well up here. This will give me that purple color I was having a hard time getting when this mixes in with the blues. SB Queen SB Queen, I don't know what that says blending looks great. are makeup brushes, in your opinion, better to blend with? For this, I'm liking my makeup brushes better than any paint brushes I've purchased. But it just depends on the situation and what you're doing. Let's go with this one. Nicholas says, if one isn't familiar with makeup brushes and their properties, what would be a good art brush substitute? You know, I don't know what, I think this is similar to a kind of like a squirrel hair. If you go to Old Navy, they have these e.l.f. makeup brushes up front, or you could probably even get them on Amazon. If they're just e.l.f. is the brand name. They're a very inexpensive paintbrush or makeup brush, and they're actually really good. So I would just go to Amazon and look up e.l.f. makeup brushes. You can probably get a handful of these for so much less than what a lot of the similar paint brushes would be. But I think this would be similar to a squirrel hair. Would I ever work with Copic markers? I'm not going to say I never would, but probably not, just because I have in the past and I wasn't a huge fan. They just don't work well for the style that I like to draw. That does not mean they can't be done. I've seen people do the most amazing thing with Copics. I'm just terrible at them. And because they are not light fast, I don't have any reason to use those over these. And I already have a full set of these. I'm using the white to make little circles. Of course, that's not going to be completely white, but that's okay because I don't really want white. Anna Jones wants to know if these markers will work well as mixed media, like with pencil or pastels. If so, does paper matter for the... Yes, paper absolutely matters. Pastels, I would say no, because pastels won't work with this paper well. And these markers require that paper, you know, a non-absorbent paper. So that would be a huge issue with trying to use pastels with these. But with colored pencil, you can put colored pencil over them. It works really well on some colors. Some things didn't show up well at all, like when I tried to draw whiskers. That didn't work out for me. But for other things, I think that they're great. Alex says, love your style. I wanted to ask, whoops, I just switched pages to somebody who has a horse as their header. Okay, we're going to wait a minute because I can't read that now. It takes a minute to load. Okay, where was that? Love your style. I wanted to ask, what is this clearest sheet you're using over your painted surfaces, and why do you use it? This is glassine. It's listed, if you go to the supply list for colored pencils on my website, lachri.com, there's a supply list there for colored pencil, and it's glassine. It's just, things don't stick to it, and it keeps my hand from smudging or getting the oils of my skin on whatever it is that I'm working on. Now this marker, you can see how it's starting to get really dirty. All I'm going to do is take a clean paper and wipe it off on that. It just cleans it right off. Aiden wants to know how long it takes me to finish a piece with markers or colored pencil. With markers, this is only my 4th time, so I'm really not sure. A few hours, not long. Colored pencil, the one that I just finished, took me about 3 weeks. It depends on what it is, though, because sometimes colored pencil will only take me 3 days. It just depends on so many different factors. Rabbit Child said, you mentioned someone in another video who got you into YouTube. Jaime, does he have a website to see his art? I think he does. I don't know if he does or not now. He needs to redo it. It's nothing. It's one of the free websites that it does not show off his work as well as it should. And he doesn't have that much on there. Oh, my monitor went down. I don't even know what it is because he doesn't post on it often. So I can't tell you what it is. But his name is Jaime Jimenez, and it's spelled with a J. Siegfried Lim wants to know, how do you pick the right colors when blending colors in colored pencil? I test it on another piece of paper, and if I don't like how that looks, then I try something else. I just keep layering until I get the results that I want. The big thing is not to worry about making everything perfect. Don't over stress yourself out about that. And that's something that I see happen a lot, where people are so worried that every layer be the perfect color. You're going to put so many layers anyway that it does not have to be exact. No one's, I mean, if you have a bad layer, no one's going to know. So experiment. See what happens when you blend these two colors together. And if it looks terrible, try another two colors until you get something that looks good. You can also use tools like I use Photoshop to tell what colors are what. That sometimes will help if I'm having a hard time. Like, is that really purple or is that more blue? That will help a lot. And I've got videos, if you look up Lachri and Photoshop or color matching, I've got videos that talk about that. So that may be helpful to you. Tonio Rosario says, are there any substitutes for glassine? I used to use tracing paper. I don't know that I'd call it a substitute because that's stuff will still stick to it. It's not as good, but that is what I used for a long time. It's better than nothing. Really, anything that you, another piece of scratch paper, something under your hand to keep the oils from your skin and to keep you from completely smudging. This is the best for not smudging because nothing will stick to it. But anything is going to be better than nothing. JPC13 Art wants to know if Canejos have gone back to normal yet. I was just thinking that. Like, I wonder if he makes a schedule. Okay, this is the day I'm going to act like a troll and see how many troll comments I can get. People, or times people will call me a troll. And then this is the day I'm going to be super nice to everybody and weird them all out. Would you say that water-based marker would work well on that Yupo paper? I've never tried. Oh, I don't know what water-based markers there are, so I can't honestly say. This is the only marker that I've had much experience with, just because I've never been a marker fan. And I say that, I don't want to insult someone who uses markers. I'm a fan of other people using them, just not myself. Sarah Makes Art says, I guess I don't want people to catch me taking their picture because I don't want I don't know them, don't want them to get mad. So, fun fact about that, in most areas, most states and cities, if you're in public, there's no like copyright. If someone takes your picture, they take your picture. You have no ground to get mad at them unless someone's like following you and stalking you, obviously. That would be an issue. But when you're in a public place, it is illegal for you to be taking photos of people. That's part of being in public. So people don't really have any ground to tell you not to. However, if you're using your cell phone, be slick about it. Look, I'm sitting here texting when really you're taking their picture. They don't know. I think just use common sense. Wow, that has a lot of black on it. Clean that off. But that is one thing that you want to be aware of, the laws for your area. But for the most part, if someone is in public, you are free to take their photo. Now, I wouldn't be creepy and be taking people's photos of their kids or, you know, chasing them around, following them, taking photos. Use common sense, but just be slick about it. And you're able to use that in your artwork. In most areas, some different laws in different places, but that's generally the case. Messy Art says, what would be a good starting set for the markers you are using, and what are you using to blend? I apologize. Oh, I started with the 24 set, and I thought that was great. Even a 12 set would be good. But the 24 set is what I started out with, and that I felt like it had just a really good base set of colors. For blending, I'm using my hands, and I'm using an e.l.f. makeup brush, just a dry brush, and a Q-tip with water on some areas. I have made an absolute mess here, but the great thing is it does not matter. That is all going to blend in later on once I figure out what colors I need there, because this is kind of the blurry area and it is just messy. And it's not going to start looking good until I get the detailed portions in later. Yeah, that is over blending. I'm going to let that dry just a bit. Actually, where is the darker purple? Inez says, oh, yes. Inez is showing you guys how to format the question. It makes it much easier for me to see when it's highlighted in the green like that. Okay, I think I officially have too many markers in my hands again. So I let that set for just a minute and it dried off a bit and it's blending without lifting quite as much. I actually think that I'm going to try something else because I'm trying to work around the anemone. Let's see what happens if I just block in. Let's get the color really dark and then I will try just erasing some of the colors. Trying to decide which colors I want to do this with. Because I feel like I'm just fighting trying to get this blurry and smooth at the same time. So that one I don't think will work. So I'm going to just really get this dark because that seems to be the problem that I'm having right now. I'm not getting my colors dark enough or smooth enough when I finally blend out. So I'm just going to mix a bunch of color. It probably does not even matter if I get my purple where the purple goes and all of that. I just need variation here. Is the blender pen you are lifting color with a white marker? I'm using both a white marker and the clear. Those are two. When you buy the set, I would definitely say get white and get the clear blender because those are two of the most used things that I have in the set. I actually bought a whole bunch of extras of both of those. That should work okay. Go ahead and blend that out. Yeah, this is definitely going to look a lot better. I haven't worked with the markers in a while, so I forgot some of the ways that I was figuring out blending backgrounds. I learned that on the Tiger. Doing the way I was just doing just doesn't work well with these. It's better just throw it all in there and then let's pull out areas that I want lighter. And I almost dipped that in coffee. Okay, so we'll just pull some of this back up. And this Q-tip just has a bit of water on it. So this is the tip of some of these anemones, anemone arms. I can never say that right. Let's get something that's a little bit fluffier for that. Oh, look at how pretty that's erasing, so nice and soft. Oh, that's good. This is still slightly wet. This would not go so soft if that were dry at all. It's just not all the way dry, which is why it is working. Ah, this is perfect. Yay! Figured out something that works. Everything with art, just always remember, whatever you're doing, it's all about experimenting. Don't be so afraid to mess something up that you don't try something new. These are just nice anyway because they are so forgiving. Okay, so I think that lets me be able to move forward a bit. I think I'm going to start on the clownfish a little bit. Normally I would do more with the background, but I really want to move on to the oranges. Let's see. Yeah. Decisions. Actually, I probably should do a little bit more back here first. Okay. This should go much faster now, though. Since I kind of figured out how to get the blurry look here, I'm going to do the same thing back there, so it should go quick. Susan Cooper says, my chicken is going to be mad I took his toy. Yeah, well, he's got plenty of his own Q-tips. Although we're going through them so quickly because he keeps stealing my ones that I normally would use for makeup in the bathroom. When I do my makeup, he likes to run around on the counter. He has stolen so many of them that I'm almost completely out. Normally, a box of Q-tips lasts me what seems like forever, and I have gone through them very quickly because he keeps stealing them and then shredding them. And for those of you who are unaware, I don't actually have a chicken. I have a white-faced cockatiel that I call my weird-looking baby shoulder chicken. But I've been posting lots of photos of him on social media, so that is what everyone is talking about when they say chicken. Actually, you know what? I bet I could just simplify this whole thing. Let's see what happens. This may be a mistake. I don't know. Actually, I'm going to pull this all the way off. And I'm going to do this on the whole background here. Kind of do this in chunks. Get some of these clumps and clusters. Definitely need some purple. Maybe a little bit of blue. Nicholas wants to know if the chicken has a name. Yes, it's a Jace, but I don't know that I have ever called that bird by that name. I've always called him Little Chicken. Elise wants to know if I'm planning to try watercolor. My Smart Art Box project, which I need to do tomorrow night, that one is with watercolor pencils. That's about as close as I plan to get in the near future. I mean, you never know, but yeah. My aunt gave me a pad of Strathmore colored pencil paper for Christmas. I'm afraid to touch it because it's evil. What do I do? Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. It's actually decent for graphite, so it's still usable. And I use mine. Actually, that's what I used when I did the Rays of Light on the dolphin painting that I posted over on Instagram and Facebook today. I used that paper because it's kind of my throwaway junk paper, since I won't use it for colored pencil, but it works okay for graphite. Let's smudge these. Okay, that blue smudged too much. That's not pretty at all. I will have to layer another color into that and clean off my hand because that's not good. Actually, I don't like how that looked where the blue went. So what I'm going to do is take my paper towel and just wipe that. Look how great this will be. Yay! Fixed. That's what I think makes these so fun to me. I can fix anything. Chloe wants to know how I came up with my name, Lachri. It is a combination of my name and my younger sister, Christy's name. No, Christy is not an artist. She can cook really well, which is not a skill I possess. Just smudge these out. Wedding Times Peach 97 wants to know if my studio assistants actually have names or if their names are actually studio assistants. Yes, they are Jessie and Echo. Jessie is the blue and white girl. Echo is the black and white girl. Their fancy names are, what is Jessie is UKC Grand Champion, Multi-Best in Show, Kalan's Shining Jewel. I think that's how it's, I don't know, it's so long I can't keep track. Echoes is UKC Grand Champion, Sardi's Daredevil. We call them Jessie and Echo. Or Get Your Head Out of That is Echo's other name. Or Echo Knock It Off. Or Echo Stop Bouncing Off My Butt. I swear, I'll be walking and she's like bouncing, jumping off my rear. I'm like, what are you doing? That dog does not walk. She only bounces. So I'm just kind of making a mixture of color back here before I come back through with the Q-tip, which I'm going to do now. Jetstream says, I got a new camera, the Nikon D3300 for my birthday. Where do you like to take reference photos? I'm not sure where. The zoo's my favorite. If you've got a local zoo, that's a great place to go to get reference photos. The other thing that I'm starting to do, because Patreon, you guys know I provide reference photos each month for Patreon, and it's not exactly zoo weather, or the days that I can go to the zoo, it's been raining or cold or always something. So what I have also been doing is taking more still life photos, and that's been a lot of fun to play with lighting. And there's so many videos on YouTube that give you tips on how to take good still life photos. So that is another thing that you can do. One of the big things that I learned watching those videos on YouTube, I always thought you just get one strong light source, and that's how you get these really cool, lights and darks and shadows. You don't. You usually use several light sources, some stronger than others, to get really cool still life photos. So that is my other favorite besides the zoo. These again are these kind of blurry, out of focus ones, so I don't want to put too much work into these. I may come back through later and clean them up, but I just kind of want to get them loosely blocked in. This Yupo paper, apparently a lot of people like it for colored pencil too. I've not tried it yet. I need to. I think it'll be too smooth for my taste, but I am interested to see what results I can get with it. Brandy wants to know if there are 2 clownfish in this photo. Yep, this guy and one here. Just want to lightly lift a little of this up to create the look of the arms of the anemone. Because I've got the tips of them, but I don't want it to just look like circles. I want to kind of give that hint. I'll probably have to put a marker over that. It's a little too white. Let's see what happens when I just put pink over that. Nope, that doesn't look good at all. Let's try the other end. Yeah, I think I'll end up coming through and adding a little bit more detail as I move through. But right now, it's just so hard to judge until I get more blocked in. Okay, I'm going to leave that background alone a little bit. I'm going to start on the clownfish. So I'm going to start with yellow. Where is my yellow? And then this will end up blending into the oranges. Okay, let's see what happens with, actually, I think this is going to be a better yellow. Yep, that should work. Now I'm using this to clean up my edges too, where the blue kind of bled into where the clownfish goes. Anxiety Art Adventures says, I am new to this channel, so how long have you been doing art and what is your favorite medium? I have been an artist pretty much my whole life. It was about 20 years ago I decided to do this professionally. And my favorite medium is usually whatever one I am currently working in. I wouldn't really want to have to choose just one. I'd get bored very quickly. Because I'm constantly painting or drawing, a single medium is just, that idea does not please me. Now I am going to have to clean off one of these brushes because they do not want that purple and blue mixed in. Katie wants to know, when I finish a painting, do I use a spray varnish on it? If so, what do I use? It depends on the medium. If you look up Lachri and varnish, I've got 2 videos, one for oil and one for acrylic, that shows you and tells you exactly what I use. I use a Liquitex, a spray varnish, and then a varnish that I paint on after the spray varnish is dry for acrylics. And for oils, I use, what do I use? Gamblin something that I cannot remember the name of right now. Gamvar, I think. Look up those videos. Don't trust me. I don't remember. Grace Fairchild says, now that you have a few live streams under your belt, how do you feel about them? Do you have any advice for trying it? I think they're fun. I have a blast doing these because it feels like you're hanging out with people and not just sitting in a room by yourself creating art. I mean, even though technically that's what I'm doing, and I have to wonder, my husband's actually home from work. He's sick today. And I wonder if he's like, why is she in there talking to herself so much? I mean, he knows what I'm doing, but it probably seems weird to him that I can have this much of a conversation by myself. But, I really like them. My big tip would be just to try them. I think there's so much, no matter how much I read and researched, none of it was going to make sense to me until I tried it for myself. When you start having a lot of the different technical difficulties, then it's like, oh, that's what they're talking about. Okay, now I know how to, now I can deal with it. So, no, I think they're fun. I like them. Often enough, I do it weekly. Or, I mean, I like it enough, I do it weekly. Warrior Potato Unicorn, who has the best name, says, are there Master's Touch oil paints any good? I've only used my friend's set once and they didn't seem any different from Winsor & Newton. I don't like any of the Master's Touch paints. They're acrylics. I'm just not a fan. I don't like generic paints at all. So I wouldn't personally use it. I know that I trust Winsor & Newton, that they've been making art supplies forever, and that's what's happening with a lot of these art suppliers. They're realizing, hey, we'll make more money if we sell our own paint. But I don't feel like they've done enough research to be able to sell their own paint. Like, they're not as experienced in making those supplies, so I just don't trust it for my work. And what I've not tried their oil paint, but I can tell you their acrylic paint is crap. At least for how I paint. As are their canvases. They're okay, I guess, if you're just practicing, but they tend to warp, and I've had problems with paint not sticking to them, and some really weird things go on with those. Denise wants to know if I do portraits often. Not lately, although I do have a couple planned in the near future. One in colored pencil, one in oils. Oops, that's the wrong end. Now I've got to be really careful here where I need black, not to go too dark, because this could easily smudge into other things. Adam wants to know if I have any videos of gesso use and techniques. No, I just painted on. That might be a good video though. I don't have any. I use a sponge brush though to get smoother coverage. That's my favorite way to apply it. So maybe I should make a video showing you guys that, but that's it. Noah, hopefully there is no hidden face in this. Although in this mess, there probably will be by the time I'm done. I would be surprised if there is not. Nope, that's not dark enough. Oh, that is the darker one. When is the Murloc painting? I can't wait. That I don't know when I'm going to do that, but it will be soon, and I already know it's going to be on a round canvas. I'm looking forward to drawing that, or painting that, I should say. Right now I'm just kind of squiggling to build texture. Oh, that's working really well. So this area, I am not going to blend out. I would create an absolute muddy mess if I try to blend this into the orange. So I want to make sure that anywhere I put this is basically where I want it to stay. Multimedia artist wants to know if I've used baby oil to blend colored pencils. No, because it's not an art material and that is not archival and it can cause lots and lots of problems for you later on down the road. The thing with baby oil, it's great for crafters, I think, because it doesn't really matter if their artwork is archival. Baby oil doesn't really ever dry all the way and it makes your paper weird and you're not going to be able to layer on top of that. It blends beautifully, but you're not going to be able to do the layering that I do. That's why I like the odorless mineral spirits, because I'm going to be able to layer on top of that. It will dry. And baby oil is just, I think, a terrible idea for colored pencil if you want your work to last long term. Okay, I'm going to wait to do the black on this section until I get the orange in. So again, I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow. Actually, I'm going to pull a little bit of this yellow up here, brighten that up. And the reason that I've got to jump here and I can't finish the white and the black that I was working on is if I do the black and then I blend the black, once I put that in, if it's already there, it's going to blend in and make a horrible muddy mess. So I need to get the orange in before anywhere that's going to have black touching it. It's just a safer way to make sure that my work stays clean. You can see I don't really worry about which direction my brush strokes are. That's all going to blend out. Amber's art wants to know how many markers are in my set. Are they worth it? I have about 75-ish right now. I might have a little bit more than that. I keep buying them, so I don't know. I love them. Okay, this is an ugly mess right now, but it's going to look good. You'll see that in the next video where I go over this. I just love the results that you can get with them. So yeah, I think they're absolutely worth it. I can't say for certain that you'll love them, but I can definitely say I'm a huge, huge fan. And I'm really glad to have all the colors that I have. When I first started, I'm like, okay, 24, that's enough. That's plenty of markers. But the more I would work, the more I'd start to want more. I always wanted more. And really, the 24 is plenty to start with. But I like to have all the colors, enough so that I bought a lot of them. Kind of dabbing that to blend. Where did the red? I think I'm missing a marker. Maybe it was this one. Maybe it wasn't. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, that'll work. Ashley says, your art is so saturated and vibrant without being overboard. Do you have any color theory tips for us? Don't be afraid of the color. I think that's the big thing. You're going to, as you're learning, you're going to have things that are too bright, and then you'll have things that are too dull, and that is how you're going to learn. Don't be afraid to make the mistakes. Don't be afraid to add the color because you're afraid it's going to be too bold. If it's too bold, then you know not to do it that way next time. Just do it. Just jump in and throw the color on there. That's how you're going to learn. There are so many things that you can read, color theory and all of that. And honestly, the best tip I have for you is just to do it. Just do it and make an ugly mess. And when it's terrible, you know not to do those colors together or add those colors together again. That's honestly how I learned. I didn't read color theory. I created messes and then figured out what I liked and disliked about everything and improved from there. Just worked on it from there. But I think it's easy to get so caught up and so worried about making a mistake that you don't progress. Don't be afraid of those mistakes. You need to make them to learn. So jump in and start making mistakes now. I mean, in general, if you have a color that, I think I used that one already. If a color is too, oh, that one will work good. Like there, I didn't know what was going to work there. Just try it. Do I like it? Great. If not, I'll just wipe it off and try again. Don't be afraid of it though. Chloe says, when people find out you are an artist and ask you to draw them, do you tell them no? I laugh like they're joking, and then usually it'll move along. If they keep asking me, I'll be like, oh, here's the page on my website. I don't do commissions anymore, so now I just tell them I don't actually do that. But when I used to take commissions, I would say, okay, here's my price list, and usually that puts a stop to it. Because I had too many times in the past where friends will take advantage and want you to spend all your time giving them free artwork. And it's like, you realize this is my job. If I'm making free stuff for you, then I'm not making stuff that's going to make me money. So that area was dry. It is okay. I'm just going to put that on there because I needed that to be a bit brighter. Just blend that into the colors that are next to it. But that's kind of my answer every time somebody asks me something I don't want to do. I laugh like they're joking. Haha, that's funny. And more often than not, people get the hint without having to be rude. Like, oh, look, we're both in on a funny joke. Noah says, when do you plan on painting the beanbag? You got your reference photo yet? There's not going to be a beanbag. Mara says, how long do you have to do that blending before the ink dries? It's usually just a few minutes. But you can reactivate it, so it doesn't really, like just putting marker over that reactivated what was right next to it, so it'll keep blending out. So you're not in a rush to blend at any point. And you do have to get used to not over blending, and I mean you can make a mess quickly and easily, so you'll get used to that. Okay, where did the yellow? There's the yellow. Iris wants to know if I'm going to make a video on watercolor in the future. Just the Smart Art box. I've got a watercolor piece I've got to do. It's with marker or water. No, I'm sorry. This is marker. Watercolor pencils. I'm not sure what the project is. I haven't really looked through the box yet. I will be working on that probably tomorrow night. So look how great this is. This marker is translucent. It's not really showing up there that well, but it's reactivating some of this. And I'm just kind of putting in where the scales are and dabbing it, and it pulls the marker back off, giving me these beautiful highlights really easily. So you can get all of this texture. Alex says, I'm trying to use colored pencil, but I don't have mineral spirits. So is there a way to make it look smooth? Lots and lots and lots of layering. You can also burnish. Burnishing is where you're pushing very hard with the pencil, and that is a way to blend. The problem is that if you are not careful, you will end up, you'll flatten the tooth of the paper when you burnish, and so you can't add additional layers. So you've got to be careful that you're not burnishing anywhere that you plan to need more layers later on. But burnishing and just light layers. I know plenty of artists, it takes a lot longer. They'll just do light layer on top of light layer on top of light layer until it looks good. Denise wants to know if I've ever painted my husband. Yes, I did years ago. I used him as a model for, there was an angel that is no longer my website. I don't even know if I have photos of it, but an angel that was sitting on the earth that was on fire, and I used him for my model for that. I think that's the only time I've painted him though. Oh no, I also painted our wedding photo. Conejo's being weird again. Okay, let's get a little bit more with the darks in here. I love how easy it is to get detail with these. There's so many cool techniques that you can do. Okay, now I can do the black, which is going to make it look so much better if I can find what I did with the black. Losing markers again. Yay, found it. Okay. Wrong end. Okay, I'm going to need, that's going to be a purpley color. Where did my purples go? Make sure that's clean. I think that purple is too dark. Okay, there it is. I knew I had a lighter purple somewhere because I put it to the side because it was too light last time. I'm afraid to smudge this with my finger because I think my finger is going to be too thick and not going to have the control I need. So I'm just going to smudge that up here. And then I'm going to switch to a pale blue. Chloe wants to know if there's a cheap brand of paper I can use for polychromos pencils since that works well. I'm so afraid to use the colored pencils with the wrong materials. I don't know why you would go cheap because colored pencil is a slow medium. Whatever you're doing, you're probably going to spend the next couple of weeks working on it. So why, I mean, is spending $2 on a single sheet of paper really that expensive on a project you're going to spend that long on? The Fabriano Artistico is one of my favorites. I think it is so perfect with the polychromos. And like I said, it's not that expensive when you consider how long you're spending on it. It's not like you're going to have a single drawing done every night. They're going to last you weeks. This is a very slow medium. So keeping that in mind, I would say get some sheets of Fabriano Artistico and cut it down into smaller sizes. Trying to save money. I mean, you spend so much money. You've got these expensive pencils. Is it really worth trying to save money then on the paper? Because that all does make a difference. Now, that said, paper that is fairly inexpensive that I kind of liked was the Canton Mutans. I like that for some techniques. I like the Strathmore, not the Bristol Vellum, but is it the 400 series? I forget which. That one's okay. Again, I would say the Fabriano Artistico is my favorite. The Stonehenge, it sold in the individual sheets, is a little bit less expensive, and that one's pretty good too. If you're using odorless mineral spirits. By itself, I did not like it. It's kind of hard to blend the pencils on that. I was fighting with that until I started using the mineral spirits. Once I used the odorless mineral spirits, then it was fine. Amber S. Art says, this video is making me want to go buy the markers like now. Awesome job. Yeah, every time I use them, even right now, I'm like, I wonder if Dick Blick's having any sales going on. I want to go buy some more colors. I know what you mean because I'm doing it to myself right now. Like, I need all the colors. I love these. I forget how much fun they are because I haven't worked in them in months. I've been so busy with everything else, and I kind of forgot how much I liked them. Now that I'm using them again, I want more. Ashley says, or asks, what would you say are the key factors in creating more depth with limited references? I'm not totally sure I understand the question as far as the more references thing, but I can answer as far as just creating more depth in general. There are a few ways that you can create depth in the piece. For one, soften out your background. Don't have your background have as much detail as your foreground, because that will, oh look, I am dropping markers, because, then you lose depth. If the back here has just as much detail as up here, it just all is kind of flat. So that's a huge one. You can use different colors, like use cool colors in your background and warm colors up front. That helps to create depth. There's a few things like that. Mara Black wants to know if they are refillable and how long before they start to dry out. They are not refillable. I don't know how long till they dry out. I've not had one dry out yet, so I can't say there. But creating depth, that's a great question in general. I think understanding your hard and your soft lines, paying attention to where you want lots of detail and where you want your edges to be very soft. That's a big deal in making something more three-dimensional. I think one of the mistakes that I made early on when I started painting and drawing is that I was trying to put the same amount of detail in my background as I was in the foreground. There was no difference between the two. So that will definitely help you if you can pay attention to areas that should soften out and not be as detailed. So this is going to be the white area again, but I don't want to just jump into straight white. And I'm afraid that's going to have orange on it, so I need to clean and dry that. Yep, that would have had orange. That would have been a horrible, ugly mess if I would have blended orange over blue. Because of those being complementary colors, that would have turned this ugly brown. Denise Wilson says, I want them to. What main colors would be a good starter set? Eventually build my set. Black and white for sure. And you could really just start with black and white and get a lot done as far as kind of figuring out how to blend them and getting the hang of them that way. But black and white for sure, and the colorless blender. So there's 3. And then what other colors that you want? You know, your general, your primary, get blue, green. Green's not a primary color, I realize that, but get your basic colors, the colors of the rainbow, basically. I think that would give you a really good start. Mara says, how did you do the white on the fish's face? I know you put in blue, but do you have a white marker? I do have a white marker, but I just let the white of the paper show through for most of that. The white marker, I kind of use more for blending different colors that I want to lighten up and soften, but not like, it doesn't really show up white. If I want something to get fairly white, I'm going to use water and lift it back up like I did on these. And even that doesn't get white. Ultramarine Blue says, I just finished a commission portrait in graphite and charcoal, very photorealistic. Do you think it's okay to leave the background white? Yeah, if it looks good white, leave it white. You don't have to always have colors in your background. If white works, then I would say leave it. Ooh, I get to use all of the grays. I bought a ton of different gray colors. That would be another color I would say to pick up, get some gray. But I haven't gotten to use most of them yet. Karen Smith says Dick Blick has 35 to 42% off Winsor Newton Pigment Markers. Nice. I have to go take a look at those. I think those are there already, that they're always less than going to a store. Like at Hobby Lobby, these were all marked at like I want to say it was $7.99 a piece, almost $8 a piece. Some ridiculous price. But if you go to Dick Blick or to Jerry's Artorama, they're always right around $5 a piece. So they're always going to be a lot less than buying them at the store. What was I working on? Black. I have to find what I did with my black. Huh. Oh, there it is. Mara says, besides the goldfish, is this type your favorite fish? One of them. I don't know. I think the goldfish is the only one I would consider a favorite, but I do like painting these guys. I have a lot of favorite marine fish, or a lot of them that I like. Mara says, is it too difficult to create your own grays by blending black and white? It can be done, but I would definitely make it easier on yourself and get a gray. Even if you just get one gray. But that is one thing that I decided the more I did this, the more I wanted a bigger variety of different grays. Chris Stevens says, do you know of any watercolor YouTubers who give tutorials like you do? Any tips for starting out in a new medium? I know Lena Danielle works in watercolor quite often, and she does beautiful, beautiful work. She does a lot of portraits, so you can check her out. She's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. I don't follow a lot of watercolor artists just because that's not a medium I work in. So I'm not too much help there. Mara says, does the squeak of the markers drive you nuts? Not at all. I'm irritated by a lot of things, but that is not one of them. So as I start building more and more, it makes it easier for me to come back and go, okay, I need to darken this up. I need to lighten this, more of red here, whatever color. So I'm just going to keep building until I get it to look how I like. Lots of layers. Kat Sender said, I bought the 24 ink tints on Black Friday for about $19. I was in Michael's last week, and they were selling the same pack of ink tints for $84. Ouch. You can get a full set of ink tints for around $100-ish, $85, $89, I think right around there if you go to like Dick Blick or one of those. I think the problem is that Hobby Lobby, Michael's, all of those, they assume you're going to use a 40% coupon, so they keep their prices really high to make up for that. Whereas when you go to Dick Blick to their website, it's going, or Jerry's Artorama or any of those, that's the price. That is as low as it's going to go. So Ashley says, do you ever do paintings bigger than yourself? How would you suggest approaching such a large canvas? I used to do murals, and I would start by just getting my entire background a solid color. Just cover up the white wall or whatever it was I was working on. Just cover that completely and just build. Just layer like anything else. I don't have any big tips on that other than bring snacks. It's a lot of physical work. So I used to bring carrots and broccoli with me and just a Ziploc bag so I could just constantly snack as I worked, because you do get really tired and really hungry. But at least for me, I usually would have a mural done in a weekend or so, a full wall. And I didn't want to keep stopping to eat. And especially if you go to somebody's house, you don't want to use their microwave or anything like that. So I just brought vegetables and I could eat that way. And yeah, that was a lot of work. I don't miss those days, honestly. Mara Black says, can you add colors over dry ink, or will it wet? It will re-wet it. It reactivates it. So yes, I will add colors over dry ink, but it definitely reactivates and will cause it to lift. Mara says, how do you protect this when it's finished? I frame it. RK Design says, I work with markers and leave a lot of blank spaces. Is that bad? Not if you like the look of it. Patrick says, I'm going to do an acrylic portrait of Sylvanas from WoW, and I'm wondering what colors I should do for the underpainting for the skin. Any suggestions? I would look up the video, Lachri and color matching with Photoshop, and I will show you how, like if you take a screenshot of her, you can use that and see exactly what colors to use for her skin. That would be my best tip. Lightning Lizard 64. Did I read that right? Is it really Lightning Lizard 64? That's an awesome name. When I use oil, when using oils, how do you create highlights and avoid muddying colors? I've tried using several different mixing whites and even yellows to create highlights, but they don't seem to work. I let it dry in between layers. I am a big fan of working in very light layers, and because of the mixing medium that I use, it dries usually overnight, so I'm ready for my next layer by the next day, and that will keep you from getting muddy colors. Cat Marie says, what medium of paint do you use for a mural? I use acrylics. Denise wants to know how long the markers last. I don't know. None of mine have come close to running out yet, so I can't say. I'll let you, sooner or later, it's bound to happen. I'll let you guys know when it does. Mara Black says, this looks like it will have a nice shine to it. Do the markers come in matte? No, they all pretty much look the same. I don't think that there's much of a shine to it, though. I'd say it's more somewhere between matte and satin. It's not a gloss. Steph Creation wants to know if I use Copic. No, I do not. Kaneho, no, you would not be a good mod. Being on your best behavior one time, we know you better than that. JPC13 Art says, do these markers and Copics work together? P.S. I really want to see you and Robin Clance do a collaboration. No, because they don't blend the same. They don't behave the same. And so it's actually recommended not to use them. Like you can use, technically you could use Copics on this type of paper, but they don't work right. They don't set on top quite right from what I'm told. I've not tried it myself, so I have to throw that out there. But I asked around about this. Actually, I asked Winsor Newton about this. And they said that basically because they require different papers, they don't work real well together. And they found that the Copics tended to fade when these went with them. Like they did not work well. So I can't really tell you much more besides that because I've not tried it myself. But it is not recommended to use them together, although I have seen where artists did. So the thing is, the Copics are not going to be light fast where these are, so that would also be something to keep in mind. What's the best paper for working with Prismacolored pencils? The same paper that I use for all of my others, and I have, if you go to my website, lachri.com, under colored pencil supplies, there's a tab up top, or just go to supplies and go down to colored pencil. I talk about some of the different papers that I recommend, and Prismacolor would work fine for any of those. Mara Black wants to know if you should always use a blending brush like I am. Depends on what results you want. I'm still at a learning stage with this and kind of experimenting and see what happens if I do this and then what happens if I do that way. Again, I think this is like the 4th drawing I've ever done with these. So I may eventually decide that I hate using the blending tools or find a better way. So I wouldn't say that you have to always use it. Play with different techniques and see what works best for you. I like using the blending brushes, though, so far. I'm really liking the results that I get with them. It's funny, you asked about if the squeaky noises of the markers drives me crazy. I actually kind of like the squeaky noise of the markers. I don't know why. I think it's an association thing. I associate that noise with fun. Also, normally when I'm working, I've got audiobooks or music or something going, so I don't really hear what's happening on the paper that much. Krista says, any advice on creativity? I've been doing art for a while and I only know how to do the technical stuff. Create more. The more you create, the more ideas you'll have. So for me, I painted a while back a painting of an octopus. And I painted some birds. And then I decided, what happens if I combine those two in the same painting? That is, for me, how I come up with a lot of ideas. And part of it, too, is where I'm at that stage between awake and asleep. And when I'm falling asleep, and I just start getting random ideas going through my head. I've gotten some really good surreal ideas at that point. But the more you create, I think you'll start getting ideas. Like I said, just randomly, what would happen if I combine these two things that I painted realistically first, and then decided to go ahead and do something weird with them. Denise says, I tend to get really into my work when trying to finish a project. What's the longest time you have spent on a painting? 40 hours. Back years ago when I only did marine life, it was an 11 by 14 inch, I believe. No, sorry, I'm making up numbers. That's not what it was. It was a 30 by 40 inch. And that was a very time consuming project. Okay. Guess I can start working. I'm going to leave him be for now. I'm going to have to come back through because, well, I know I definitely need to get his shadows darker. I guess I could do some of that now. I'm going to use purple for that and let it blend in with some of the orange. Ooh, I like how the purple looks. That is not what my reference photo looks like, but I am liking it. Actually, that may look good blended in with my black so that the black's not so flat. Yep. Oh, liking the results I'm getting there. See what I mean? Just try things. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And in this case, I can just wipe it off. No big deal. But just don't be afraid to try different things in your art. Let's see. Kara says, what are some of the best materials to use when you paint? That's going to be personal preference. I'm a huge fan of Liquitex Basics, and those a lot of artists think are like for kids or student grade, and they're not. They're actually fine. But that, for me, for my techniques, is the best. So I can't say what the best is. I can say what I like, and I have all of the supplies that I like listed over on my website under the supplies for whatever medium you're looking at. Siegfried Lim says, how do you deal with procrastination over an artwork? Like, how do you stay motivated all the time? Every time a new bill comes in the mail, I'm like, wow, I need to pay this. I better go get some artwork done. Works for me. YouTube really made a difference for me, though, because now it's like I have a schedule and I know I've got to get work done and I want to keep with that schedule. So I've got to get to work. So that made a huge difference for me in creating more. I create so much more artwork than I ever did before since making my channel. I'm looking for my brownish red. Yeah, it's kind of the color. I don't think this is the one I want, though. I think this one's too pale. Oh no, this one will work. I'm gonna do the same thing. Well, some of these start getting more defined. I wonder if I should work. Okay, this is still blurry, so we'll do this section all together. Like how I say we, like I expect you guys to do the work for me. Mara Black says, do you have several of those blending brushes, or does it dry so fast on the brush that there's no worry about transferring color? I have 3. I bought a 3-pack at Old Navy. So, but I do have to rinse it off in between use, because if you don't, it definitely can spread the color. So I rinse it with water and then just dry it right away. Actually use some orange in this time. And some magenta. If I can find where I put those markers. There we go. Purple. Carl wants to know some tips, or no, wait, sorry, what? This just scrolled too fast. I don't know who was asking what. Carl says, what are some tips if you were just starting to paint? Jump into it. Don't be afraid of it. That the people who do the best and learn the fastest are those who are not afraid to make mistakes. If you make a mistake, who cares? Paint over it or learn how to fix that mistake. Don't be afraid of the medium. That is the biggest tip I can give you. Don't be afraid of mistakes. It's not the end of the world if something comes out terrible. It's going to look terrible. You're going to have to create a whole lot of ugly paintings before you get to the really good ones. So jump in and get those ugly paintings out of the way now. Just don't be afraid. Have fun with it. That's the other thing, is not to stress out, to have fun. Those who are enjoying the process and didn't care if they made mistake, didn't care if it looked bad, they could laugh at themselves and they enjoyed it. They really did learn better and faster just based on the attitude that they had about everything. Now, the supplies you use will make a difference. So if you're having a hard time, if you realize that, certain blending techniques aren't working, maybe you need different brushes, but that you're not going to figure out until you just start. You start practicing, start having fun with them. Mara Black wants to know what I used to get the drawing on my paper. It was a 4H graphite pencil. Deb wants to know how many hours I think I'm going to spend to finish this piece. I don't know, because I'm doing so much experimentation. I think maybe I'll spend 8 hours on it this time, but if you asked me to do the same thing in a year, it would take me 2 hours, just because I'm trying things like this. I already did this and now I'm messing with it again because I don't like it. So I really can't say. I'm giving myself the freedom to experiment, to make mistakes, and go back and fix it until it looks good. So this one's not how I normally work, because normally I'm working in mediums that I'm very experienced in. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just playing. So it will take me a lot longer than it will in the future once I get the hang of all of this. I mean, even just in the few pieces I've done, I've learned so much. So my goal is to try to make this better than my tiger. We'll see if that ends up happening, because this is a totally different way of blending the background, but that's my goal. But I'm also not going to beat myself up if it doesn't happen. I don't know what that is. Kathy says, is the reference photo you're using posted somewhere? No, but if you go to graphicstock.com, look under Clownfish and Anemone. I'm using 2 different Clownfish photos and then a separate Anemone photo. I've combined them all together. Ashley says, do you have any advice for making the jump from realism to hyperrealism? I don't know that you just decide, I'm going to start hyperrealism. You just keep working on realism and making it better, and try to get it as close to exact as possible. You're constantly trying to make it better. And I think once you get to the point where your skills are up there and then you're willing to put in the 100, 200 hours it's going to take, then that's when the hyperrealism happens. But it's not something, I mean, I've seen artists say, oh, I'm a hyperrealistic artist. Now you look at their work and no, you definitely are not. It's not something like, you can say you're an impressionistic artist and it's still impressionism. But with hyperrealism, just something that happens. The more practice you get, the more time that you spend on your work, and the more you start paying attention to those tiny, tiny details. So the jump from one to the next is just constantly trying to improve, to constantly try to make it look more realistic. And again, practice and spending more time on the piece. Mara says, how would you create rays with these? Can it be done? Like the rays of light, like the dolphins? I would probably take a slightly damp paper towel and just wipe. You can even see, actually, this is slightly damp. This will probably lift some of this. This is how I would do the rays of light. Ooh, I like how this blends. Where I'm just pulling a slightly damp. You can see how it makes a streak. You could do that for rays of light. I'm going to do it now for anemones, but that would probably be the way that I would think would work best. Oh, I like how this blends. Look at this. This is dry. This is barely damp. And look at how that's smudging. Ooh, that's pretty. Oh, just figured out something new. Yay! We will credit Mara for this, for me showing her how I would do rays of light, because that's how that would happen. And that is the smoothest that's going to give me nice results later on. Mara wants to know if I would airbrush with this medium at all. Probably not. I don't think those two would play well together. Jim Miner says, would you ever consider doing a self-portrait for us? Love the one you did of Jon Snow. Thanks. Yes, I am planning a self-portrait eventually. I have to take the time to get the photos and get everything right. And, you know, when you do it of yourself, you want everything to be just perfect. And I need to do that. It is in my plans. Yolanda wants to know how much I spend on art supplies every year. Well, what do you consider an art supply? I mean, for me, the business as a whole, I probably spent $10,000 this year. I don't know, I haven't gone through my receipts, but I mean, all of the stuff to make videos, to do all of that, it's all added together. So I'm not sure because I haven't separated the supplies from the rest of it, but it's a lot. I've got Conejo trying to get me to stop the live stream because we're almost done, and others encouraging it to go on. I think I'm pretty much done working for now. This will be a full video, so you guys will see this in the next couple of weeks. This video will be up. If you want to ask a couple more questions before we wrap this up. And again, if you guys want to check out our moderator, Valerie and Joseph, they've got channels here on YouTube too. In the video description, I do have links to those channels. And this is really weird because I'm pretty sure Conejo was nice to everyone this entire live stream. I'm just reading it. People who are watching this later on are like, what the heck? Why is she not talking? She's just looking at the computer. I'm reading through, watching for questions. Deb Malley says, the clownfish already looks beautiful. I like the colors in the background. Purple is my favorite color. You know, the oranges and purples always and magentas look so pretty together all the time. Thank you. Yeah, I think we are about done. I have zero idea what next week is going to be. I don't know. I think this will be done by then, hopefully. Really hoping that it's done by then. So yeah, I don't know what next week will be, but I'm sure I will be here on Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for joining and asking questions. Mara wants to know if I'm going to have a blurry foreground. No, the foreground will be detailed. And thank you again to the moderators for helping out. Make sure to check out their channels. And I think that is it for tonight. I know I'm forgetting something. I always know there's something I want to say or whatever. I'm forgetting whatever it is. But thank you again, and I think that's it. Bye, guys.